At Thanksgiving dinner, my aunt looked at my mom and asked, "Have you forgiven yourself yet for what you did?" I looked up from my plate, completely confused because I had no idea what my aunt was talking about. But before I could ask, my mom shoved her chair back so hard it slammed into the wall and ran out of the room without saying a single word. Dad chased after her. I sat there, staring at my aunt, while the rest of my family suddenly became extremely interested in their mashed potatoes. I asked my aunt what she meant, and she just shook her head and said it was not her place to say. When my dad came back in the room and I asked him what was happening, he grabbed my arm and pulled me into the hallway. He got right in my face and said, "You are never to ask about what just happened. Some secrets exist to people, and if you love your mother at all, you'll pretend this entire night never happened." I told him I deserved to know what was going on, and he said, "You deserve to have a mother who can get out of bed in the morning, and if you keep digging, you're going to destroy her." That was the moment I realized whatever my mom was hiding, I needed to understand what kind of guilt was living inside the woman who raised me. I called my cousin Becky the next day, and she hung up on me the second. I mentioned Thanksgiving, and when I called back, she let it go to voicemail 6 times in a row before texting me to say she loved me, but she was not getting involved. I drove to my grandma's house unannounced, and when I asked her what mom did, she stood up from her chair and pointed at the front door and told me to leave her house immediately. I tried calling aunts and uncles and family friends, and every single one of them either changed the subject or straight up refused to talk to me, and I started to feel like I was losing my mind because everyone I loved was treating me like I was the problem for wanting to know the truth. I went home for Christmas and my mom wouldn't even look at me, and when I tried to bring it up, she started screaming, "Stop trying to ruin my life. You're selfish and cruel for not just letting it go." My dad pulled me outside and said, "If I don't stop asking questions, you'll no longer be welcome in our home." And I realized I had a choice between having a relationship with my parents and knowing who my mother actually was. I chose the truth, and I looked my dad in the eyes and said, "I'm not going anywhere until someone tells me the truth." Stormed inside to where my mom was sitting in the living room. "Mom, I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you did, I already know it's bad. The only thing that's gonna make me hate you is if you keep lying to my face." I started shouting, and I couldn't stop. "You think you're protecting me? But every single person in this family know except me. And I have never felt more alone in my life." My mom looked at me silently for a long time and finally told me to sit down. She started quietly sobbing while my dad rubbed her back and shot me. Looks like I had just murdered someone. She kept saying she couldn't do it and that I was going to hate her. I told her that nothing she could say would make me hate her because she was my mom. She finally looked up at me with mascara running down her face and said, "I killed someone." I felt the world start sin. Whatever the secret was, I never expected this. 18 years ago, I was driving home after a double shift, and I was so exhausted that I ran a red light without even seeing it change. Her voice broke on the last word, and she started sobbing again. My dad spoke up. She hit another car going over 40 miles per hour, and the woman driving that car died before the paramedics arrived. The woman's name was Hamila, and she was 34 years old with 2 little kids at home who never saw their mother again. They both went on to explain that my mom pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter and got 5 years probation, and she has visited Hamila's grave every single year on the anniversary because she can't let herself forget what she took from those children. "I ended a life because I was too proud to pull over and rest," she said through sobs so violent she could barely get the words out. "Those kids grew up without a mother because of me, and I have to live with that every single day until I die." I hugged her for what felt like hours as I realized that my mom took someone's mother away, and nothing will ever make that okay, but she's still my mother, and I wasn't going to let her carry it alone anymore.